Welcome to JK Not Really.
Season 2, episode 8, baby. We're back at it.
Yes, and this is your first episode as a wifey.
It is. And quite honestly, it doesn't feel any different. Like I feel the same. My relationship with Steven's the same. It's just solidified. It's just so nice to be like, that is my husband.
Right. I was going to ask you, I was like, do you feel like any changes?
So I guess it's a good thing to say no, like our relationship didn't change at all or how we act towards one another. It's just how I like present our relationship to others. Like I feel like I'm still like 20 years old and I shouldn't be saying that I have a husband. It's weird.
Yeah, yeah, but it is definitely like a sense of pride when you're like, oh, yeah, this is my husband. Or in our marriage, we do X, Y, and Z.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, and that's what I really like about it too. And I'm just so excited for the holiday season, the new traditions, and just to say, like, yeah, this is what we're doing, like, as a family unit, and like solidifying that too. Like, we just made our own family together.
And I think that's so kind of underrated, or maybe not underrated is the right word. I think people that don't have kids yet, like you and I,
Hmm.
when we got married, like it's what you just said, like that is now my family. That's my immediate family.
Yeah.
And it even took me that was like something that probably took me actually like a little bit of time to understand like, oh, I'm not putting the needs of, my parents or my siblings or my extended family now first. Like it's us now. That is the
Yeah.
priority.
Yes. Yes. Like you just made your ultimate like unit. And of course, you're going to like respect your relatives and want to continue those traditions, but it's also realizing that you're now an adult and you created this own family dynamic that you also need to prioritize and put first.
Right. It's like, this is what works best for us now. And so, therefore, this is what I need to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking about actually traveling back to the East Coast in November because I haven't been there since the summer, get like a little homesick and all of that. And I was just like, that might be weird if Steven can't like join me. That'll be like my first like solo trip as a wife going back to my parents' house.
Right. And it does feel weird when you travel, I think without your spouse, like, even it does feel like kind of like a little piece of you is missing.
Yeah.
Even if it's for like good things, like what you just said, like even if it's not like a business trip or something like that, it just you miss them, which is a good
Yeah.
thing.
No, I completely agree with that. Yeah. But overall, marriage life is good. Very, very happy.
Good. And your reception was beautiful. Your wedding, like your ceremony pictures, I could not get over them. It truly looked like a mountain Hallmark movie.
It felt like it. And like when everybody asks about like how it was, like the first word that comes to mind was just it was just magical. And
It
I
looked
feel so
magical,
cliche saying that.
but it looked magical. Like if when you see those pictures, it when I saw them, I was like, that's why they did it this way.
Yes. So I was like, I don't want to say hesitant, and I didn't say that I didn't want to do it. It was definitely a compromise between Steve and I how to do our wedding and celebrate us. Because originally I wanted the whole shebang of like the ceremony of everybody there and the reception, and he just wanted the courthouse.
Mm-hmm.
So we decided to do like the little micro wedding with family members only, immediate family, and then the reception after. And honestly, I could not have pictured it any other way. And I'm so happy that we did it that way because I actually got one-on-one time with my mom, my sister, my aunt, my sister-in-law, my mother-in-law. Instead of trying to like please so many other people, we literally had time just to sit and be with one another. And then at the ceremony, it was so intimate. And then for us just to have our own intimate dinner together too, it was just so nice.
And I had a feeling I knew it was kind of hard for you in the beginning of your wedding planning process because
Yeah.
and I think it is very natural, I think, for the like we do dream about our wedding day from when we're a very young age. Like everyone, I think, does on some level if marriage is what they want. And so I
Yeah.
knew in the beginning, I was like, this is kind of like the first stepping stone of like marriage, though, is compromise like that. It's like, how can we both acknowledge our wants, acknowledge our needs, meet them on both ends?
Yeah. Yeah. It was a little difficult at first, but I knew that like if we did it my way, then I know that Stephen wouldn't be truly himself. And I just want that. I want the authenticity. Authenticity? Is that I want it to be
Often,
authentic. Authenticity?
let me just not use the word. I want it to be authentic. Authenticity.
There we go. I want it to be authentic. I wanted him to be his authentic self, and I knew he wouldn't be that way. And roles reverse. I wouldn't be that way if we did the courthouse thing. And quite honestly, even just reading our vows together was so intimate of just him and I doing it. Like I feel like if we did it in front of other people, I wouldn't be able to like be fully engulfed in the moment.
Right. No, that makes sense.
Oh.
And I think it's beautiful that you did it that way.
I loved it. And then doing our first dance by the riverbank too, of just him and I, as well. Our family shuttled back to the hotel to get like appetizers and drinks. And then we kind of like recreated all of it too at the reception with the first dances for all of our friends to see.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and I don't know if we talked about this on the last episode or not. It was hard for me, and I think that we had this conversation, like, and I said, I think I'm speaking for a lot of your closest girls right now. I just, what was hard for me was like, oh, I'm not going to see her in her wedding dress. Like, I'm not going to like witness that moment. And then I was like, I just need to be honest with her. Like, I just need to say, like, listen, I know it's your wedding. I know it's like your way. However, I was like, because when you watch your best friend get married, like, it is, you're just so overwhelmingly happy for them and you just
Yeah.
want to like see everything. And especially like for girls, I think like it is that dress moment. And so I just like loved how open you were for that conversation with me. I was like, have you ever considered maybe wearing your wedding dress a little bit so people can see it and we can get those pictures with you since we're not going to be there for the ceremony. And I was a little scared. I was like, she could 100% shut me down and be like, nope, we're doing it this way. It's the ceremony. It is what it is. And I was like full on ready for that response because I know when I was a bride, there were certain things where like if I had made that decision and it was that way in my mind, like no one could talk me off of that. So I was like, she might shut me down, but it's going to be fine. But I was like, I need to be honest with her.
You literally thought I was going to shut that down?
I thought it was a possibility.
Well, was this after the conversation when I basically told you you weren't invited?
Yep.
Got it, got it.
Yep. I remember vividly when you were like, so we're just having immediate family at the ceremony. And part of me, I was like, oh, wait, so that's not me.
Yeah, wait, so you're not doing like the whole reception or anything?
Yeah. And I think, and I would be lying if I said it wasn't hard. Like, I think it's just it's natural. I think if you have a really like close best friend, like you want to witness that, right?
Yeah.
However, after seeing how open you were about the reception, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna see her in her wedding dress. I'm gonna be there like to see their first dance and all of that. I was like, oh, this is great. And I understood why you did it the way that you did it. And it was kind of like, you need to accept the fact that this is their day and get over it.
Well, I'm really happy that we had that conversation. You like really opened my eyes to be like, oh wait, no, that does make sense. If roles were reversed, yeah, I would want to see you in your wedding dress. I want to get pictures with you with that in it. And it was so cool too because I also had a party dress. So to have all my girls help me change out of my ceremony dress into the party dress was really cool and like just very
Oh,
special
that was
to
so
have.
fun. Your entrance
But
was iconic.
just that whole reception, it was just so casual, having a food truck, a DJ, and just beer, wine, and champagne. Like, I feel like that's the way to do it.
Oh, yeah.
But the way that we ended the night wasn't the way to do it.
I was going to ask, I was like, we also learned some other life lessons
Huh.
through
That
this
we did.
experience. Yeah. So, do you want to just disclose what happened that night?
Just dive into it.
Yeah.
I guess. I mean, there's no other way to do it. I never thought on the night of my reception, celebrating with family and friends that drove and flew across the country, that I would end up in the ER the night of my reception with my husband.
I mean, if you would have told me, I would have been like, depending on the reason, I can believe it. If you would have like told me ahead of time, yeah, I did not expect to be going up stairs in your house to bed and seeing you and Steven at the top of the stairs and being like, we're going to the emergency room.
Yeah. Okay, secretly, selfishly, I wish I went in my dress because I feel like that would have been a cool reaction from the staff members.
It would have been. No, you're right. It would have been kind of
Yes.
epic.
Yes. And I just want to note too, it wasn't because of like I was drinking too much alcohol or I injured myself because I fell off the table because that used to be past Kacy in college and high school.
For sure.
Yeah. I've been having a lot of health struggles recently. And unfortunately, this has been an occurrence that happened in the beginning of the month that I actually ended up in the ER and got admitted overnight for more testing and scans, and they just can't find out what's going on. And I had another flare up that happened again that caused me to go to the ER to get some relief.
And then,
And
yep,
I'll just tell everybody, I'll be open about it.
just do it.
Yeah, so it's concerns with my bladder. And with that, I need to get a catheter to release everything.
And then you had
I
to
literally had,
leave
huh?
the cat, and then you had to leave the catheter in for the rest of the
Yeah,
weekend while we were all there.
yeah. So once I got cath, I had 1.5 liters of liquid that just came out of me within seconds. So could you imagine like carrying that much?
No, when you
So
told me
painful.
how much it was, I was like, she's lucky that something more like serious didn't happen because that's insane.
I know. I know. I mean, I like probably filled back up like 2 bottles of champagne easily within 5 seconds once I
I
got a
love
cath.
that that was your go-to measurement. Like I love that like let me measure the liquid coming out of my body in champagne bottles.
I mean, it gives it more of a visual too. I'm not a math person,
Very true. So
but
yeah,
I can see the bottles.
you had all of us there. You had I was Andrew and I was staying with you. You had Steven's best friend staying with you. You had another best friend from home staying with you. And like you said, you still had all of your family that flew in, other guests that flew in. Your other best friend, her husband were at a hotel, and you had plans to host the next day.
We had plans for that whole weekend to have like people over on Friday to do like a casual like party and then like probably go out downtown because a lot of my friends and family members didn't get to experience Colorado Springs. This was their first time here in the state.
Right.
And I was so excited to show them everything. But with a catheter in you, like I literally couldn't even like sit at a comfortable like position.
No, you were in so much visible pain. It was awful.
And I just felt so bad that all the plans just like changed drastically. And I had no control over it
I
at
was going to
all.
say, and you just had to like sit with that.
It was so hard because not only was I in physical pain, but there was also like a lot of frustration and fear because of what's happening to my body. Why is this happening now? And then also so much guilt too, because I had all my best friends here and I couldn't do anything.
Yeah. And then there is that feeling of, oh, I'm letting people down, even when it's something that is completely out of your control. You're obviously suffering. You're dealing with the confusion, the lack of answers, and then you're beating yourself up because all these people are here for you and you're not able to I guess in our minds, we tell ourselves fulfill their needs and their wants.
Yeah. One's probably wasn't like anything close to your mindset during that time, but that's literally how I felt the whole entire weekend. Like
Right.
I
It's,
felt so bad.
yeah, it's what we tell ourselves. Like,
Yeah.
certainly, like, we were looking at you and being like, oh my gosh, I can't believe she's not like taking us downtown. Like, she has a catheter in, she just got married. Like, this is honestly like a bride's worst nightmare that's happening right now.
Huh. And here I am because I have this like illusion in my head that I'm a bad friend, and it just fed that thought too, that I am a bad friend.
I was going to say, when we did go out to give you guys some alone time, did you get emotional?
Oh my God, yeah. So emotional. I started crying to Steve, and I'm like, I just feel so guilty. I feel so bad. Like, this is not what I wanted to do. I had so many plans for everybody. And then I started to like be rational a little bit. I'm like, well, Jack loves to host. I'm like, this is her time to like shine with Andrew to show everybody around downtown.
Oh, yeah. I was like, I used to live here. So, like, I know where to go.
Gonna go and get my favorite margarita.
Oh, yeah. And like we were happy to take that burden off of your plate. Like it was actually Andrew that kind of pulled me aside and was like, I think we should like kind of rally and like take them out to just give them a break because there's honestly nothing worse than being sick or having a medical emergency and like you're hosting. Like you can't even almost be comfortable in a way in your own home and you can't rest and you have to like, even if you are not like a big host person, you still kind of feel that pressure to entertain. So it was just, we need to
Oh,
give them a break.
I literally felt bad that I was in my living room on the couch when you guys were in the kitchen. And that's an open space. Like I can literally see you at my kitchen table while I'm sitting on the couch. And I felt bad that I wasn't close enough.
But it just goes back to something we were talking about earlier, where it's like there are just certain things that no matter what you do, it's out of your control. And we said, like, fate, destiny, a higher power, God, whatever you believe in, they don't ask for permission. Like, the life is going to happen. And it's like so difficult to accept that.
It would be so nice if they asked permission. Like, shit. I mean, how do you handle that? Because I know you're such a planner. You're so type A too.
I am a control freak. Like
Yeah.
control is like it brings me joy. Like there is nothing better or more satisfying when like a plan comes together or I've orchestrated things to go exactly the way it was in my brain. And that
hmm
goes with teaching, with visits, with my relationships. Like I love that. I'm very type A, like you said. So it is very difficult for me to just be like, let the chips fall where they may, let go and let God. Like it is, I've gotten better, but there are still times where I'm like, what did I do in a past life to deserve this? Like, why can't things just go according to plan for me?
Yep. Yep. I feel the same exact way. I'm like, well, I guess I was a fucking asshole in my past life then for being like having to deal with this shit now.
Literally, I'm like, what was I like burned at the stake for being a witch at this point?
Yeah.
Like, what did I do? Why do bad things happen to good people? And I definitely
Yep.
give myself permission to have that moment and like get my frustrations out.
hmm
Because if I didn't, I wouldn't be able to move on. And I'm
hmm
happy that, and you're kind of like this too, we are natural optimists. So
Yeah.
I think after I've kind of thrown my pity party or gotten my frustrations out, I am like saying to myself, okay, what's the silver lining here? What can I take from this situation? Even when like, I dealt with multiple trips this past summer where my flights got canceled. And after
Yes.
I was like, you know what? Maybe I wasn't meant to get on that plane today.
Yeah.
Maybe this is something that's like bigger than me. And instead of fighting it, maybe this was I'm right where I'm meant to be right now.
So like learning how to ride the wave, essentially, which is so hard to do.
Yeah. I mean, those waters get choppy, and sometimes my life feels like I'm caught in a riptide. Like if we want to get super metaphorical with it, like it's so not easy. I mean, even with being an army wife, like there
Yeah.
unfortunately, like Andrew's had to miss a lot of things that I had to go to by myself. And
Hmm.
it doesn't get easier. And it's just kind of like you are strong enough to get through this. And there will be a time when he is there and you're at these things together, but you can do this on your own, and you'll be okay. Like it'll be okay. So
Yeah. Yeah. I think the one thing that really helps is acknowledging that it's not possible for something to last forever.
that's a good point.
Like, in a way, there's always going to be light at the end of the tunnel. And I like what you said too, like trying to find the silver lining through it all.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I remember I was even on the phone with my mom, like crying, and I was so upset. I'm just like, I can't be physically intimate with my partner, but the intimacy that we got was at the doctor's office, knowing how to cath me if needed.
Right.
I'm like,
Like,
who says that on their first week of marriage? Like, no, because you think about having like this romantic like night with your partner and everything else. I'm like, no, we had to learn how to cath me.
right. And it's like, that's marriage.
And honestly, the silver lining that I found was just like, you know what? Like, I always trusted him. I always had faith in him. I was so comfortable. I'm like, but this is just really showing the fullest extent that, like, he is there for me, ride or die.
The good, the bad, the ugly. Like, that's also such
Yeah.
and it's so kind of strange to think about, but that is such a vulnerable and intimate act. Like, to kind of, again, relinquish control, give it over to your
Yeah.
spouse when it has to do with your body.
Yeah.
Like that's heavy and that's hard to just accept and let it happen to you, but it's also for better or for worse, like we signed up for this, buddy, like you're in.
And I will like to add to knowing us and our husbands is that they are so logical that it really helps bring us down from our emotional state because we spiral so fast and easily where they're just like so calm, cool, and collected. They're just like, nope, this is what's going on. This is what we need to do. Let's go. And we're kind of like, okay, need to follow
Literally,
along,
like,
letting go control.
yeah, like there are so many moments where I think you and I are just a total passenger princess when it comes to them.
And honestly, that's probably why we struggle when it's just like us dealing with changes in life because we can't be the PP cruising. We need to
Right.
figure out how to navigate it.
And sometimes, like, and I, like, even when I deal with this, with having really tough conversations with loved ones, like, sometimes I'm like, can you just say this for me? Like, I wish, like, I do wish that I could just be like, you're so, they're so much better at not people pleasing, like, and just focusing on what we want as a unit. Like we said earlier, like, I still just struggle so much with that.
I know, so do I. It's hard. There was I'm listening to I think it's called like 101 essays that will change your life or something along those lines.
Oh,
And it's really making you or myself think differently. And one of the questions was just fast forward to 20 years. Where are you? What are you doing? And what would you tell yourself that you wish you would have done? And that really hit with me because there were so many moments that I second guessed myself and pleased others in the moment of distress when I got hurt.
yeah,
And those moments really stick out to me when I wish I kind of not wasted, but there was a lot of difficulty because I was trying to please others versus myself.
absolutely. And I
Hmm.
almost think, and we've talked about this a bunch in the past, holidays are a perfect example. It's like we get home and we're like, was was that enjoyable? Like, did we feel like we really had a Christmas? Like, and it's always enjoyable. That's not to say I don't love being around our family members. It's always enjoyable and a great time when I'm with them. But it is the traveling. It is the running around to four different places, three states, 5 days. Like it is exhausting. And I've tried to, be better this year as a teacher to prioritize like my self-care. And when I'm
Mhm.
out of contract hours, I'm out of contract hours. When I'm on a fall break or a winter break, I'm on an actual break and I need to do some self-care. And so that's been my goal this year. I try to give myself like one goal or area of growth as a teacher like every year. And
Mhm.
for this year, it's like you need to give yourself more breaks. Like I always put this pressure on myself to like do a million things over my breaks because I think sometimes if I feel like I don't, then I'm not making the most of my time off.
That's crazy because you do so much constantly.
Oh, so it is a natural question that I get from multiple people that like I'm close with, where they're like, how do you do it? Like you are always moving 100 miles an hour, going to things all the time. And when I'm asked that question, I don't know the answer. I don't know how I do it. I think I
Hmm.
just like check into a different place and it's just like nose to the grindstone, which is not healthy.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, I think it has a lot to do with like growing up as well and like so constantly busy and the chaos of it. It's just so natural and coming to you that it's just easy for you to continue that.
Oh yeah, there's definitely a weird comfortability that I have with the chaos and with the running around because
Yeah.
that was kind of, I think again, being a child of divorce, when you have two different households and two different homes and two different norms that you like that shift and you switch the holidays every year are different, like who has who when. And
Yeah.
so when you grow up having to divide your time like that as an expectation, it's very hard to let go of that when you have your own family.
I could not even imagine. I had like a little glimpse of what you've been experiencing because when we had everybody over, our families, it was trying to find how we divide time up with everybody. And it was so overwhelming that we both like spiraled. And I'm like, oh my God, this is how Jack probably feels on a yearly basis of
Oh
trying to just make sure everybody has an even amount of time. And that's not even possible.
no, it is impossible to please everyone. And when I
But
go ahead.
it's not impossible to please yourself.
Touche. Touche. That's fair. But it's just, again, it's what you felt. Like I will beat myself up so badly if I feel like I'm disappointing others.
Yeah.
And I've learned that I need to like vocalize my best is enough. My best is good enough. And if that's not okay with you, then we have some things that we need to discuss. Like whoever that is that's making me feel like my best isn't good enough. Is that some level of hurt that's projecting on me from things we didn't talk about? Is that coming from you struggling with my lack of presence isn't going to be the day that you envisioned? Because I get that. Like I
Yeah.
understand that.
I think that's great. And I also think it's something that you and I both need to work on. I'm sure like other people too, is accepting that people are going to be disappointed at us and that's okay. That doesn't change like who we are as a person. And that's so hard for me because I allow other people's perspectives to define me somehow, whereas my morals and values should define me. And that's something I'm like learning how to navigate too, especially when I'm trying to plan everything and those plans don't go accordingly.
Right. And so I think that's one area where I've definitely made strides. I've definitely buckled down. I've had some really difficult conversations with people that I love dearly.
Hmm.
And it was hard to even get the words out. And I literally had to look at Andrew and almost like come up with a game plan of like what I was going to say. I even thought about like writing it down at one point. Um, and it
Yeah.
is a lot of just, I would stick up for other people at the drop of a hat. Like I would literally, if someone was making you feel, and we've been, if someone was making you feel like you weren't good enough, I would go to war for you. Like,
Oh,
and I would be so confident, so concrete, so like steadfast. When it comes to going to war for myself, I am a baby. I am so unequipped and I don't understand why, but
mhm.
that's genuinely how I feel. Like I feel so weak.
I know, same, same. Or like a perfect example when you literally defended my honor with the French fry scenario in the car
Oh,
blindly.
oh, for sure. Like, can you tell people that? That was hilarious.
I think I only told the people that were with us. Okay, I don't remember doing this, but Steve and I stopped at McDonald's on the way home
From your reception.
from my reception and then went to the hospital, slept in my own thing. So then I had Jack and Andrew take my car because they had to run errands. And apparently there were French fries all over the car.
In the nooks and crannies, like in your in between the seats, on the floor, in cup holders. Like it was a massacre of French fries.
So, how did the conversation go
So
again with you
when
and
we get
Andrew?
in and we're just like, there's like a lot of French fries in here. Like that's a little weird. Like whatever. So we're just like picking them, like so we're not sitting on them. And Andrew immediately goes, "Oh, Kacy was 100% chucking these at Steven." And I was like, oh, I was like, she was not. I was like, she would do no such thing. That was not what was happening. They probably just fell over. Like she was not throwing those. She would not do that. Like so confident. Turns out that's verbatim what was happening because then we went inside and we told Steven and you guys like what we thought. And Steven was like, oh no, 100%. She was eating them at me. And I was like, whatever. I was like, well, and I was like, well, she probably had a good reason. Like,
Right? 100% gonna stand up for her.
oh yeah, like
When I was
100%.
like on a different level, I was on a different planet. I wasn't even Kacy at that point.
No, you were a full-on space cadet.
Yeah. So again, thanks for having my back, but like you need to have your back too.
Yeah, and I think that's something again I've made strides with it this year because I'm also like getting into that time. Like it's crazy that this year is almost coming to an end, and I'm just
Yeah.
reflecting, and I've gotten better. I'm definitely way better than I was a year ago, but it's still just a constant. You're allowed to stand up for yourself. You're allowed to have differing opinions. You're allowed to make your own plans and put those first. You're allowed to do all of those things. And it's what you said. I'm not responsible for people's reactions.
No, not at all.
I'm only responsible for like my own.
Yep. Yep. And you're also responsible for your own happiness as well and pleasing yourself throughout this life because it is precious. We only have a certain amount of time left. So use it wisely
Absolutely.
and learn
Especially,
how to ride the wave.
yep. I mean, I'm not going to be successful with it every time. And I think it's like impractical to say that we will. But if you can just check in with yourself and start to make those strides of putting your needs first, I think that you'll see a big change.
Yeah, I agree. And that kind of leads us into the next episode of just talking about all the changes that are happening in this world too.
Oh, it's a crazy time. And I feel like when does a millennial not feel like it's a crazy time? But I think now, especially being an
Yeah.
adult right now or being a kid, because I see them too struggle, it's just really difficult.
Yes. Well, we're all on this bus together. So,
Yes, no one is alone in this
no,
life.
not at all. All right. Well, stay tuned to hear more about it then.
Yeah, thanks for listening, guys, and we will see you in the next one.
Bye.